So, like I said, just wanted to make this sort of a casual chat, and to talk about this whole idea of being digital nomads, and particularly at a moment in, I'm going to say, U.S. history when there's so many people who are giving up U.S. citizenship, or they are looking for places to live and work overseas. I'm sure you saw that story about New Zealand and all the Americans who were contacting New Zealand about trying to expatriate
Right.
here.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that whole idea of Americans looking for opportunities to go overseas. And a lot of people tend to let me back up. When I talk to my friends in the U.S., they don't realize, or they assume it's like incredibly hard to move overseas, and life is so radically different that leaving America and living someplace like the Czech Republic, or you being in Mexico, they assume that that's like moving to Mars.
Right.
And so I'm just sort of curious what kind of experiences you've had talking to friends back in the States about this life of Jason the digital nomad.
Yeah. Well, oddly enough, it's been about, let's see, almost coming up on 9 years since we first moved abroad. My wife and our family, our two kids, two dogs. And we've lost contact with a lot of people back in the US. But I will say that when I do meet people, like when we're traveling somewhere where people are on vacation and where we happen to live in this place, or we're living in the same country and we're vacationing in a different part, we meet people, or we're visiting the States and maybe meet people at a restaurant or sitting next to us at a bar or something like that. And we're chatting about what we do. That's the big question people ask, what do you do for a living? And I say, well, I'm a writer, I'm an editor, correspondence. I used to live in Costa Rica, I live in Mexico. And like you said, people just can't wrap their brains around it because they are tending to be people who report to an office Monday through Friday, 9 to whenever, work weekends, they have busy lives. And, I think the biggest question people have is like, just how is that possible? How do you make money? Who do you work for? And I'm like, well, I have a couple of different people I work for, and I don't know. It's just like, yeah, it's just something that people just they can't wrap their brains around it. But I try to explain it to them. I try to talk about the advantages. Um, and so that's kind of like the thing about being the digital nomad. I think most people don't understand the opportunity, or how it works, how you make money, that side of it. And there is also that other side of, how do you move to a different country? I mean, because maybe folks have moved within their states or cross country, but usually it was something where maybe their company arranged everything, or if they were in the military, the army, paid for everything, moved their stuff. They didn't have to worry about it. And it does seem daunting to move yourself and your stuff, to a different country where there's a new language, a new way of doing things. You have to worry about residence visas and things like that. So it is a big question. Yeah, so I know that's kind of a rambling answer, but hopefully I got something in there.
Yeah. So how old were you when you first moved overseas?
Let's see. So this was 2012. Let's see. So I was mid 30s
Okay.
when we made the move. Yeah.
Okay. And what were you doing before that?
I was working for various internet marketing and publishing companies in South Florida.
Okay.
As a writer and editor, I was managing some newsletters and magazines and things like that. There were some tumultuous times towards the end, and the companies were struggling. And at the end result, to make a long story short, is I was kind of laid off right before Christmas 2011. And they were nice about it. They just said, well, I don't think we have the funds for your position next year. We'll give you a month. You can start interviewing. We'll give you great references, things like that. I did start looking for jobs and did get a lot of interviews and offers in similar jobs for other kind of internet marketing and publishing companies. But I really saw the writing on the wall, and I said, the same thing that just happened to me could easily happen again. I could be out of a job very soon, or more serious at the time was I just didn't feel like I was going to be a good fit for these positions, that I would not enjoy what I was doing, that it was going to be, you know, being paid for 40 hours but working 60 hours a week. And so in the interim, I had started just freelancing for people I knew in the industry, contacting, you know, friends and people my past companies had done joint ventures with. And I said, hey, I'm freelancing now. You know, what sort of, you know, do you need any help with anything? Can I assist you with anything? And very quickly, I had a good stable of people I was working with. And of course, I also got in touch with International Living, and because I'd been a reader for a long time. And I kind of said, hey, I'm, you know, freelancing now. I'd love to contribute some articles about, you know, Costa Rica, which a place my wife and I had traveled quite often. So I started submitting some travel articles, and at one point, um, as we were kind of all this was happening, I was realizing I was making pretty good income from all my freelance work. Um, and my wife and I looked at each other and we said, well, we can't really survive on this in South Florida, which is tremendously expensive. But we love Costa Rica. We visited so many times. We know that it's cheaper there, it's safe, and it would be a nice place to live. What if we just gave that a go? So we kind of hatched this plan, and within 3 months, we actually took off, and we're living in Costa Rica. At that point, I called International Living again, and I said, I am in Costa Rica. And they said, well, we need a correspondent. Would you like to do that? So that's kind of how that relationship started as well.
So you had a similar path to me. I mean, I lost my job. You were lucky. You lost yours at 30. I lost mine at 50.
Well, yeah.
And I was also working for a company in South Florida. And I, moved to LA and decided, after going back to the film school and having, some success there, but the challenges of trying to break into Hollywood, living in Los Angeles, at 50 years old, and you're a white guy in the middle of the Me Too movement. I mean, it kind of not the
Yeah.
not the best place to be at that time. And I just said, I'm going to go pursue a dream and live overseas and move to the Czech Republic. So did you have a similar kind of dream that you wanted to live overseas, or was it just something that sort of cropped up because you were in this situation?
Right. Well, I kind of have, well, I wouldn't say a unique background, but I grew up in Spain, in southern Spain. My mom is Spanish. My dad is American. He was in the Air Force and later worked for the government in various kind of civilian roles. And he was working at a Navy base in southern Spain. And that's kind of where I grew up from 9 to 18 when I went to college at the University of Florida. In that time, we traveled all over. And I really had that travel bug. So when I got to college, I kind of took a break because I had no money. So when I got out and I started, working, I was originally a newspaper reporter, a journalist. Um, and, my wife and I just started traveling. We went to Southeast Asia, we went to the Caribbean, we went to Costa Rica, different spots. And we always kind of had this thought, like, it would be great if we moved to one of these places because, we really enjoy it. I was always itching to move overseas again, like the experience I had growing up. Um, but there's always that complication that we both had full-time jobs with benefits and all that stuff. And it seemed like a crazy idea to quit those jobs to make that transition. And then, like I said, that one day I got laid off, that wasn't an obstacle anymore because I didn't have a job and I discovered a different way of making money. So that's kind of how that got kicked off. And yeah, we'd always wanted to live overseas, and there was an opportunity to do so, and we kind of went for it.
So you come at it from a slightly different perspective than me, in that I moved overseas as a single guy. I don't have a family and kids following me or two dogs. What's it like? Is there any difference, or what is the challenges, I should say, of moving overseas as a family, and you've got kids to think about, and you've got pets to think about, because they are, there's issues involved moving pets around and whatnot. Does that become a logistical nightmare, for lack of a better word?
It definitely adds complications because just with everything you're doing, it's an added expense. There's more plane tickets. There's more residence visa fees. You have to get a larger place to live in, a larger house. If you're going to buy a vehicle of some sort, you have to make sure it fits everybody. So and all that kind of sort of thing. You just multiply your expenses, I guess. That's one side of it. And the other part is just the transition for the kids, and I think it's a big consideration and something that families that I've spoken with who are contemplating a similar move, that's probably their number one question, beyond the logistics and all that sort of thing, is what's that transition like? How it's going to impact the kids, in particular, because it's one thing for the parents to be like, hey, I want to move to Mexico or Bolivia or France or something. And it's another thing for a child who's in school, who has friends, who has activities, who might have a great relationship with the extended family or with people in the neighborhood, and then say, okay, so we're moving to France, and that's it. And don't worry, you'll get over it. Your best friend that you've had since you were 5, you can stay in touch on Facebook, because you can't ignore that side. So you really have to, I think, put the kids, make the kids part of the process, the part of the planning process. Explain to them, what you're going to do, why you're doing it. Try to get them on board. Show them, that it's going to be beneficial for them too. Explain to them, that there are ways to communicate with folks back home. That there are going to be exciting opportunities in this new place. And it's not always that's not always an easy process. You can't always get the kids back on board. But you have to talk that out with them. I guess it's a kind of a personal decision. You have to figure out if it's worth kind of overruling their objections and just going for it and hoping it all works out, or kind of working with them in some way and negotiating maybe a compromise. So I know a lot of families, the kids would be devastated if they left their high school and all their friends and their spot on the football team or whatever it happens to be to move overseas. So what they do is they take extended trips overseas. They might go someplace for a month or 2 months, 3 months. They might, take a lot of vacations, that sort of thing, extended vacations. So they kind of fulfill that little bit of, I want to be overseas bug, and their kids are happy enough, but it's a compromise. And then they wait until the kids are older, and then they can move abroad on their own, when there's an empty nest. So
And you're in San Miguel de Allende, right?
yes.
Okay. What prompted you to move there from Costa Rica? Why Mexico?
Yeah, well, we've been in Costa Rica for almost 5 years, and we were living in a small beach town on the North Pacific coast called Tamarindo. A lot of fun, great surf, fishing, like the beach lifestyle. Lots of cool little restaurants, and like kind of always a party because it's a big tourist spot, and we enjoyed that. Um, but in that 5 years, through my work with international living and just personal travel, we visited, seemed like every corner of the country, often multiple times. And we love Costa Rica. The natural beauty is awesome, the wildlife. Being in a rainforest surrounded by creatures and plants and orchids and all that good stuff is awesome. Love the beaches. People are awesome. They're very friendly. But we just felt like we wanted to try something new. We have itchy feet, I guess. We're travelers at heart. We like to explore. We like that feeling of being uncomfortable, I guess, is one way to put it. Trying to figure out things in a new place. And so we've been to Mexico on some trips over the years, and we figured, it's actually a pretty cool place. We like the food. The culture is very interesting. It's very different from Costa Rica. We like the colonial history of Mexico. It was a seat of Spanish, colonial power for hundreds of years. And we just like the traditions in Mexico, the vibrancy of the culture. And, so we said, well, let's give Mexico a try. And so we just kind of made that move. And first, we're actually on the Riviera Maya, a small town just between Playa del Carmen to the north and Tulum to the south. And we were living actually within a resort beach complex. So we were on those white sand beaches, the clear turquoise waters were minutes away, and all that good stuff. But after about a year, we're kind of like, this is getting we're getting a little tired of feeling like we're on vacation all the time, because that's kind of what we were surrounded with. So we found San Miguel de Allende, which is a colonial city dating back to the 1500s. UNESCO World Heritage Sites, a ton of arts and cultural activities going on all the time. A large expat community, but very well blended into the local community, so you don't feel
In the
so
hills,
much like
right?
an outsider. So
It's up in the hills, right?
yeah, we're at about 6,200 feet elevation in central Mexico. We're about 4 hours north of Mexico City. And this whole region is kind of, it's hilly and mountainous. It's pretty arid and dry. There's not a lot of humidity. And it really doesn't get too cold except for January, February. We have some nights where it freezes overnight. But most generally throughout the year, it's 70s, low 80s during the day, 60s and 50s at night, so quite comfortable. So the weather's nice. And despite having so many expats and a lot of tourists, it's not. It's one of the more expensive places in Mexico, but still, very affordable. So that's another benefit as well.
Have you thought about where you want to go next?
Ooh, that's a tough one because we're always talking about it. We like it there. I think going back to kids, our kids are pretty well established there with friends, and my oldest son is going to a small expat-run school there, private school, and that he has his buddies, he has his activities. So I think this is one of those times where we're going to kind of bow to them and say, okay, you guys are entrenched here, you like it here, we'll stick around for a while. But that can always change. So we're kind of looking at maybe, I think we will stay in Mexico, but maybe somewhere on the Pacific coast, like Puerto Vallarta or Huatulco or Puerto Escondido, further south in the Oaxaca state.
So you wouldn't look at going back to Europe and getting your Spanish heritage there?
I, I do want to go back to Europe as well at some point. That's kind of something we've talked about as well, taking an extended trip through Europe, for maybe a summer and kind of checking it out because having a Spanish passport kind of opens you up to the whole EU. So it'd be great to see maybe there's another destination that we might try, sometime in the future. So.
Right. So I got a question that I get a lot of questions asked of me from friends back in the U.S. They always ask me about healthcare. They just assume that the U.S. has the greatest healthcare system in the known universe, and it's always been that way. And they assume healthcare in all these other countries is, no matter where you are, it's going to be third world, it's going to be socialist, nobody's going to get treated. And it's just not like that. I mean, the healthcare in the Czech Republic is incredibly good. It's better than the U.S. as far as I'm concerned. And I don't have these problems with like waiting or getting bills that don't make any sense. I mean, it's all, I pay my monthly fee to the state plan and I can get health care whenever I need it. What has been your experience with healthcare in Costa Rica and Mexico?
Yeah, well, my youngest son was actually born in Costa Rica. He was born at a private hospital there, and we paid cash out of pockets, and it was for everything, the hospital stay, the delivery, the anesthesiologist, all that stuff. It was about $3,300 just to, and I put it on my debit card or credit card or whatever. So, and that's Costa Rica. They have a mix of public and private healthcare there. There is the government-run healthcare service that official residents there can take advantage of. And the service is good. You pay a low monthly fee based on your income, and then you get to get free care basically at any clinic or hospital in the country. They have plenty of specialists. They can perform most any procedure, and you can get most any prescription, and it's a fraction of the cost of what it would be in the U.S. I've had friends in Costa Rica have had heart attacks and been treated. They've had, various cancer treatments and things like that, just different type of surgeries and procedures. And I was lucky enough not to have to go through anything like that or my family, but they all reported excellent care. They said the food wasn't so great at the hospital, but they said there was good care. And maybe that's something to focus on is the actual caring parts. Aside from the, having the latest treatments and the low cost, what we've found, even just going to a simple pediatrician's appointment with one of our sons, the physicians, the nurses, the administrators, they're all very caring. They actually genuinely care that you're getting the right treatment, that you're comfortable with the situation, that you understand what they've told you. So like in the US, to go to visit a doctor or something or a dentist, often you'll wait an hour and see your doctor for about 5 minutes. They're kind of rushing you out the door. They hand you a prescription and they say, is that it? Okay, great. I have to move on to the next patient. In Costa Rica and places like Mexico, you wait 5 minutes and you see the physician for an hour and you're there and they're, you can ask questions about your treatments. You can ask about your options. You can, have a frank discussion with your doctor about, what your medical condition is and how we should go about treating it. and they genuinely want you to be comfortable with what's going on. And I have the cell phone numbers of all my doctors, all my kids' doctors. I had in Costa Rica as well, and I can text them and be like, "Hey, yeah, so my son's fever is still over 100. What do you think we should do?" And he'll be like, "Okay, well, I'm going to come over, and you can get house calls, stuff like that." So it's a big difference. And Mexico, the government-run healthcare system, I would say, is not as efficient as it was in Costa Rica. They're serving a much larger population, but it's still a good standard of care. Um, I've also had older friends who had some issues. Took them to the emergency room at one of these government-run facilities. Received excellent care. It was turned out to be emergency surgery to fix an open fracture. And all of a sudden, I was actually a translator. That was one of the disadvantages. There weren't many people who spoke English in the hospital, just some of the doctors. And I was a translator helping this lady get through emergency surgery and recovery and that sort of thing. But I kind of saw firsthand that, again, they were caring. The nurses were very concerned with the condition. When they saw that this needed to be an emergency surgery, they took action right away. They brought in a specialist. They did all the pre-op stuff and got her right into the emergency room, probably within an hour of us arriving at the emergency room. So to get that surgery. And in Mexico, you also have private, clinics and hospitals and doctors. And again, standard of care is great. All the latest techniques and technology, and a low cost as well. So it's like you said, in all places around the world, we've experienced a lot better outcomes, have had a lot better experiences in healthcare in the U.S. We do have U.S. insurance, and when we are visiting the U.S., sometimes we do have to visit a doctor or something like that, and it's such a hassle that sometimes we just say, well, we'll just wait until we get back to Mexico. So maybe that sums it up a little bit. So
You have health insurance in Mexico?
yes.
How much does it cost? I'm curious about that.
Well, we're actually kind of looking at some new policies right now. And we're kind of looking about, for the family of four, I believe the annual premium is going to be under $3,000. And there's an option to add coverage in the US, but that kind of bumps up the price significantly.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're looking at that, and that will cover COVID as well. That was an issue that some people I know had, is their insurance was not going to cover COVID. They kind of said, this is a huge worldwide pandemic, we're not covering it. So people are kind of scrambling right now to get some coverage, but it is out there.
So for a family, then you're talking basically $250 a month, almost, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. I mean, I was paying $500 a month by myself living in California, which is insane. I pay $100 a month here. How would you, if you were in a group of friends, if you're in the U.S. and like this group suddenly materializes around you and they want to know about sort of this lifestyle you and I lead, how would you sort of sum up this lifestyle?
Yeah. Well, I think what I really value about this lifestyle is the freedom that I have, because I do have plenty of work. I'm always working. I probably work 40 or more hours a week, despite being a digital nomad living abroad and being a freelancer essentially. But I'm not tied to that 9 to 5 schedule. I'm not tied to clocking in somewhere, showing up to meetings that go nowhere. So I'm able to be a lot more efficient. And I have that freedom where, and I do this all the time, if there's a festival, or we want to go to the beach, or we want to take a trip, or we want to go camping, or I want to go mountain biking, or the kids want to go horseback riding, or we want to visit a hot springs, and it's a Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, I don't have to say, no, guys, sorry, I don't have any vacation days left. I just do what I want. Maybe I'll work Saturday instead. So I love that freedom where I can kind of set my own schedule, do my own thing. And it's not that work becomes secondary, but I fit work around the things I like to do, not the other way around, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I don't think people quite understand. And I reference this a lot in what I write. I mean, it's almost like having a job that is a vacation, instead of sort of making your vacations fit around this 1 or 2 weeks you get off during the year with a normal job. You kind of make your job fit around your lifestyle, and it's incredibly flexible to say, at 11 o'clock in the morning, I feel like going to the river and hanging out by the river, going to a pub and hanging out at the pub. And then I can do all my writing at night if I want to, or on a Saturday when it's rainy or whatever. I mean, it's just, to me, I don't know that there's a better lifestyle, in the world than being a freelance digital nomad.
Yeah. I, because of this freedom that I have, we'll often take trips to places in the off season when it's cheaper and things like that, or in the on season too. We'll take weekend trips or stay somewhere for a month, a cabin on the Caribbean side of Costa Rica, for example. We did that when we lived there. And when you're in these places, you see people on traditional vacations. They have that 1 week or 2 week vacation. And often I've noticed these people are incredibly stressed out, where there should be very relaxed and enjoying themselves. They're kind of focused on, well, this is my only 2 weeks this whole year that I get to have fun, so I better have fun. So so it stresses them out. Every little thing aggravates them because it's not perfect. That's, oh, my food didn't come out right from the hotel restaurant. Oh, my vacation is ruined, or it's raining today, and I can't go to the beach. Oh, my vacation is ruined. And just for me, it kind of just rolls off my back because this is kind of how I live. And so I feel, it's not that I feel sorry for people that have traditional jobs. It's a fit for somebody, for a lot of people. It gives you that stability. You don't have to worry about kind of, all your benefits and planning for your own retirement and things like that. So I understand that there's a big draw for that. But I wouldn't trade, the lifestyle I have to go back to that. I think every time I ever think about getting a traditional job or something, it kind of I last about 5 seconds before I realized, no, I could never do that again. So yeah.
All right, Jason, it was good talking to you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Good time. I'm available anytime. I love talking about this stuff, and hopefully people get some insights from this. And I'm always available for questions as well if folks are curious about how to make this lifestyle work, or if they're curious about living abroad. I've traveled throughout Latin America, so I'm pretty familiar. They can always reach me at jholland@internationalliving.com. So I'm happy to chat with folks.
Good to know. Thanks a lot, Jason. Have a good rest of your day in Mexico.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeff. Bye. Take care.